name is Alita Williams, and I am president of the Rotary Club of Chicago. And I would like to open our 5,675th meeting. And now I would like to invite Sean Stringer to come up and give us our thought of the day.
It's too low. You gotta extend this up a little bit. Okay. Hi, everyone. As a lot of you may know, one passion of mine is traveling, and another is education. Luckily, I've been blessed to visit a lot of different cultures around the world, and I always take a keen interest in local schools and kids when I'm visiting these different countries. I'm often asked, what's my favorite place when traveling? And I really don't have a favorite place. I would say I have favorite experiences. And a lot of those experiences have been with kids in schools, actually. I find that across cultures, a binding thread has been the joy of kids, and when they're in learning environments, particularly. They're just so open to the world, and it's just refreshing, right? It's just a refreshing thing to experience. So I thought I'd briefly cover just a couple of those experiences and tie it in, I guess, with a thought of the day. And one of those was actually a Rotary mission trip that we took to Pignon, Haiti. It was some time ago now, but it was a great experience. We also visited a local school, and I brought over some soccer balls actually for the kids. So sometimes it's just the simplest things that can really resonate, and especially healthful activities. But they were delighted, just to see the joy in their eyes from a simple gesture is actually pretty amazing. Another trip I took to Darjeeling, India, and visited the Tibetan Refugee Self-Help Center, and they also have a small primary school associated with the center, and actually played basketball with kids in their front playground. Was asked to dunk, even though I'm a little tall, can't jump that high, so I had to disappoint them, said I couldn't dunk. They were very disappointed. But it was just a joyful activity, and just asked a lot about their activities and what they were doing and everything like that. And another quick experience was when I was in Nepal and next to the Chitwan, and I was actually riding an elephant, and there was little kids walking to school. And one asked if you could jump up and get a ride to school. So I was like, sure, So actually gave him a ride to school on an elephant. And during that, I asked him what he was interested in school and everything. And he had his book, and he showed me everything. And it was just, again, just this joyful experience of him, really taking pride in what he was doing and able to show someone else, that a stranger, what he was doing, and encouraging him to obviously continue. When he got to the school, it was just really this little hut. And it was just not that many kids that would gather there every morning to do their studies. So just kind of tying that all in, there's a quote by His Holiness the Dalai Lama that says, "When educating the minds of our youth, we must not forget to educate their hearts." And I think it's a very poignant and amazing quote, because I also think we can all have these kind of simple experiences and really have an impact too, by showing that interest and that sincere care into what kids are doing, as well as providing a safe and healthy environment for them in which to learn. And hopefully that ties in with today's speaker and everything. Thanks.
Sorry, I'm not that tall. So we want to remember to keep all of our questions succinct and to the point, one question per person. Our wonderful visitors on Zoom, if you could put any questions that you have into the chat, and we will make sure to get to those questions. In this room, please wait till the microphone comes to you so that the people on Zoom can hear you. We'd appreciate that. And with that, I invite Sarah Buck up to introduce our speaker.
All right, I am pleased to introduce our speaker for today, Claire Marcy. I am very familiar with the Healthy Schools campaign as I used to lead professional development workshops as part of their Fit to Learn program for teachers. Claire currently is the interim director for Healthy Schools campaign, which is a nonprofit organization that works to provide students with healthy environments to learn, including nutrition, health services, and opportunities for physical activity. She earned a BA in political science from DePaul and a master's in public administration from Northwestern. She has been with Healthy Schools campaign since 2004 and worked with another nonprofit in the Humboldt Park area prior to that. Her hobbies include tennis, vegetable gardening, an array of music genres, reading, and according to her, obsessively following politics, which I imagine is what the aggression of tennis and the pleasantries of gardening is for. She's also fluent in spoken French, presumably due to her father being from a province in France. When you get a review that includes the phrase, "Claire excels at everything she does," then we know that we are very fortunate to have Claire Marcy as our Rotary speaker for today. And with that, I turn the microphone over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here today, and I don't know if that review is necessarily anything we should hang our hats on. So I want to thank Sarah, President-elect of the Rotary Club of Chicago. Like she mentioned, she has partnered with Healthy Schools campaign many times to help teachers incorporate health and movement in their classrooms and lesson plans. And she's a wonderful champion of this work. And I just learned that your current president also provided her culinary skills to our Cooking Up Change healthy cooking contest for Chicago public school students. So there are a lot of connections here, and I'm very thrilled to be here. Healthy Schools campaign is a 20-year-old advocacy organization dedicated to making schools healthier places. We approach the work holistically, from the air children breathe in their classrooms, to the food served throughout the day, to the crucial health services available to students, to opportunities for children to be active and spend time outside. We believe students should be healthy and safe at school, and that all the adults in a school should be working in concert toward that goal. Our work takes place at the intersection of health, education, equity, and sustainability. We're based in Chicago and advocate at the local, state, and national levels. In Chicago, we advocate district-wide and focus our on-the-ground work in Black and Latinx communities on the city's south, west, and northwest sides. We know that our mission and goals are ambitious, but in our 20 years, we've made important progress. And today I want to share our model and tell you about some of this important work. Healthy Schools campaign has been at the forefront of moving policy and practice in the education and health fields. Our interconnected strategies to create focus on the following. We identify pressing problems and policy solutions through a broad and inclusive advocacy model that includes school nurses, teachers, school administrators, parents, caregivers, students. We build the capacity of parent leaders. That's core to our work, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. And we develop a vision for what is possible. That's especially important when you're working in slow-moving policy environments like education and health. It's important for people to be able to have a vision for the future so that you can work collectively for something brighter. We build capacity for implementation at multiple levels. That's important too, because when you advocate for policy, the work actually starts once the policy is passed. It's about implementation and making sure that every school is getting the resources that the policy promises. We engage partners across sectors. So we work with leaders in education, health, sustainability, and other sectors. We focus on transparency and accountability. This is important. We feel like having sunlight on public institutions leads to the best outcomes. And so making sure that we're not just hearing that a policy is being passed, but we're seeing it documented, and the parents and caregivers and local school partners can see that as well. And we keep equity centered in all our work. Our work grows from an understanding that systemic racism is embedded in public policies that impact health and education, and we work to keep equity as a focus of all of our work. So I mentioned that parents are important to our work a little bit earlier, but I just want to talk about that a little bit more. We organize parents and caregivers in Chicago elementary schools, and the issues and priorities that they raise and speak to influence our policy and advocacy work at all levels. Who told us years ago that CPS schools no longer had daily recess? Parents. Who raised the alarm about highly processed and unhealthy school food? Parents. Who tells us when policies are not being implemented at local schools? Parents. And who was responsible for winning the return of daily recess, a district-wide school wellness policy, and a stronger school food policy? Parents. We have an annual leadership institute where parents and caregivers learn the fundamentals of organizing parents in their schools, share their priorities, and learn about decision-making structures in the school system. Parents that go through our leadership institute are actively engaged in advocacy efforts, and most also volunteer for their local school councils, wellness committees, and bilingual committees. Now I want to talk about a big issue that we work on, which is school food. Many students, especially students from historically underinvested communities, receive most of their daily meals at school. Ensuring that school food supports the lifelong health of students is an issue of equity. Chicago Public Schools serves 247,000 daily meals at no cost to students and over 46 million school meals annually, which is an astronomical amount if you think about it for a second. CPS serves over 300,000 students, and 73% of those come from families with low incomes. We've partnered with Chicago Public Schools for almost 2 decades to strengthen the school meal program, prioritize accountability and transparency, and ensure that the district is set up for success as it raises nutrition standards and innovates. And as we were just talking about at my table, there's still a lot of work to do, especially around highly processed foods. We know from our firsthand experience that students will eat and enjoy healthy school meals if school districts prioritize student design menus and engage parents and students to create culturally responsive menus, focus on scratch cooking and locally sourced foods, incorporate salad bars, local fruits and vegetables, school gardens, and nutrition education. CPS has been at the forefront of providing healthy school meals and addressing access and equity. The district has provided universal free meals for years and has embraced strategies like student design recipes and student and parent menu testing. We have seen CPS move markets, and the district's nutrition requirements have led to changes to products and processes. For example, CPS asked producers for antibiotic-free chicken, and it led to an innovative partnership that changed production and business practices for both the district and consumer markets. CPS's Farm to School program has had a major impact on regional fruit producers as well. In recent years, the district has struggled with participation levels, and the economics of making a school meal program work rely heavily on high participation because there are so many fixed costs no matter how many meals you serve. The district is doing positive work to address this. They're expanding scratch cooking, developing innovative recipes, modernizing the dining center experience, listening to students, and prioritizing locally sourced foods. But due to product scarcity and concerns about low participation, the district has also gone back to some strategies that we see as counters to supporting lifelong healthy choices for students. This underscores a fundamental problem with how the National School Meal Program is structured. So we still have more work to do in Chicago and nationally as well. We're thrilled that Illinois recently passed a law making universal free school meals a possibility in all districts. While this is a great start, this newly signed law still needs a budget appropriation in order to be implemented, and we will be advocating with partners to move this forward. Schools are an important venue for providing crucial mental, behavioral, and physical health services to students. In Chicago, we co-convened the School Health Access Collaborative with the Public Health Institute of Metropolitan Chicago. This collaborative, known as SHAC, brings together over 40 education and health organizations, including Chicago Public Schools and the Chicago Department of Public Health, to identify ways to enhance student access to comprehensive, coordinated, and sustainable health care. One example of SHAC's work is in the area of data sharing. The U.S. Surgeon General has declared that our country is facing a youth mental health crisis, and the need for mental health services in schools is very high. Chicago Public Schools relies on outside partners to fully meet the mental health needs of its student population, but those providers do not always have a full enough picture of student need and where there are gaps. SHAC members knew that increasing access to data about student mental health needs and resources would reveal valuable insights, enabling providers to make informed decisions and improve services and programming. With Asemio as a data partner, SHAC developed and successfully implemented a pilot project that shared data for over 40,000 clients between 4 community-based health providers that serve CPS students. This was successfully done without compromising student privacy in any way. The pilot successfully demonstrated how the field can do this in a way that mitigates risk and preserves student privacy. We're now exploring how to scale this important work. We also address health services at the national level. Through our years of work with student nurses, we heard firsthand about national Medicaid guidelines that made it impossible for schools to get adequate reimbursement for health services provided to Medicaid-enrolled students without individualized education plans, also known as IEPs. We worked with partners to successfully advocate for the reversal of this policy. Since then, we have been a leader in efforts to expand comprehensive and coordinated school-based health services for students through Medicaid. Through our Healthy Students Promising Futures Learning Collaborative, we support states working to change the Medicaid policies and practices in order to expand school-based health services. 19 states have already made this change to their Medicaid plans, with Illinois joining this club just a few months ago. This Illinois win came after years of advocacy from Healthy Schools Campaign and partners. The states and school districts supported by Healthy Schools Campaign are seeing meaningful successes. For example, in Louisiana, the number of school nurses statewide increased by 15% since this change happened. And since most schools already deliver some health services, bringing in federal Medicaid reimbursement can replace scarce resources, freeing up funding for other needs in schools. We also successfully advocated for the bipartisan Safer Communities Act to include provisions for increasing access to school-based mental health services. Through our Healthy Green Schools and Colleges program, we address how schools are cleaned and maintained with a focus on cleaning for health. The pandemic made creating healthy school environments an urgent national priority and brought to light the serious underinvestment in school facilities nationwide. Even before the pandemic, nearly half of US schools reported indoor air quality problems that put the health of students and staff at risk. Unhealthy indoor air, inadequate ventilation, and chemical exposure from cleaning and maintenance routines are huge challenges in school districts. On top of the significant health concerns they present, these issues are linked to poor concentration in students, adding preventable barriers to achievement. Improving school environments supports the health of children and staff who learn and work within a school facility by reducing their exposure to toxins in air and water, and by emphasizing practices that prevent acute illness transmission from the common cold to COVID-19. Last year, in partnership with Green Seal, we released the Healthy Green Schools and Colleges Certification Standard, the first national standard for healthy and sustainable school facilities management. The program includes training and resources, as well as access to a peer network of school facility professionals who are on a similar journey. Finally, I want to share a program that is the embodiment of our holistic approach to creating healthier school environments. Space to Grow, Chicago's Green Schoolyards program, was co-founded by Healthy Schools Campaign and our partners at Open Lands to transform CPS schoolyards into spaces that provide students, their families, and the community with safe, shared green space for outdoor learning, active play, physical education, and environmental literacy. The schoolyards use green stormwater infrastructure, including native gardens and huge underground water storage tanks, to reduce flooding in underinvested, flood-prone communities. Space to Grow was developed in response to a need raised after HSC's parent leaders successfully advocated for the return of daily recess and a stronger PE program. When we went to schools after that policy was passed and said, "Isn't this great?" a lot of them invited us to tour their schoolyards, which were covered in concrete, broken glass, outdated equipment. They weren't that excited because they couldn't implement the programs. So we came up with the idea of Space to Grow. At the same time that CPS was facing a fiscal crisis and couldn't pay for schoolyards on its own, the water agencies that serve Chicago, and there are 2 of them, the Department of Water Management that works on drinking water, and the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, which works on wastewater, were being required to do more green stormwater infrastructure. The MWRD was under a consent decree by the EPA to do that. And so we said, hey, you have a need, schools have a need, let's get together. And we created Space to Grow. So we developed a vision for schoolyards that would provide outdoor learning, play, gardening, and community recreation opportunities. Space to Grow schoolyards are prioritized at schools that serve Black and Latinx students in historically underinvested communities. The schoolyards are open to the community after school and on weekends and serve as public parks and community meeting spaces. I'm proud to say that we recently opened our 34th schoolyard. Space to Grow schoolyards are designed through an inclusive school community design process that engages students, teachers, staff, parents, neighbors, and community partners. We provide a comprehensive educational program to ensure the schoolyards are leveraged as resources to support climate resilience and environmental stewardship and support gardening and school wellness activities as well. This year, we are launching the next phase of Space to Grow. Capital partners have committed $54 million for Space to Grow schoolyards built between now and 2026, and we will also pilot a high school renovation in this phase of work. Our experience with Space to Grow led us to launch a citywide green stormwater maintenance committee that we are leading with the mayor's office and 9 city and regional agencies. This combined work will have a big impact on Chicago's resilience as climate change leads to more frequent and intense storms and persistent flooding across the city. I want to share some photos of these incredible schoolyards. So this is Davis School in Brighton Park on the southwest side, before and after. This is Cook Academy in Auburn Gresham. And this is Grissom Elementary School in Hegewisch. I hope that this has provided a helpful overview of our work and our equity-focused approach to helping students learn and thrive. As you can see, we have an ambitious agenda. As a small organization that relies on partnerships and grassroots connections, I know that the breadth of our work can sometimes come as a surprise. One of the ways that we can increase our effectiveness is by sharing our story and creating more connections, especially with organizations like Rotary that have so many pillars in common. I appreciate the opportunity to do that with all of you today. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions? No?
I'm coming.
So I think we always want to know when somebody comes in and speaks about great programs like this, what can we do to help? So it's going to be a two-part question. One is for you to answer, and I'm going to put Sarah on the spot as well, and see if there are any opportunities through our CPS grant program, if a CPS school were to say, want some facilities like this, if there are opportunities there where we could support through the grant program as well.
Thank you for that question. I think one of the big things that we have learned is that it's through relationships and partnerships that we're able to extend our reach and sort of punch above our weight. So I think connecting with other like-minded organizations or corporations that are interested in supporting this kind of work. I think one of the things that we struggle with is sort of getting our story out and our name out, and so helping to sort of leverage communications channels and things like that. But basically, partnerships are sort of the bread and butter of what we do, and we always look for more. And the Space to Grow funding question, I can say it very quickly, just because I don't know if Sarah's going to be able to get into the details of that one, but the Space to Grow schoolyards are selected through an equity process that looks at neighborhood flooding, but also looks at other risks like lack of green space, other indicators that a neighborhood needs more schoolyards and more park space. And we really designed Space to Grow so that it wasn't sort of like the best resource school getting more stuff. It was to really focus on historically under-resourced communities, which are also the communities in Chicago that are dealing with the most issues related to climate change.
Hi. Something you read every now and then in a newspaper is some school has tried to serve healthy food and it ends up in the dumper. And I did hear you say that education is key to it. Can you give an example of what's done either in the classroom or elsewhere to educate basically younger kids that fruit and vegetables are good for them and can be tasty?
There's a lot of research that shows that giving kids an opportunity to taste food along with nutrition education is really important. We work with a lot of schools that have community edible gardens, and so Chicago Public Schools has an Eat What You Grow program, which because for years, if you grew something in a Chicago Public Schools garden, you couldn't actually serve it in the school because of liability and risk issues. But now that has changed, and so we work with a lot of schools, including all of our Space to Grow schools, to bring that food into the classroom because kids are much more willing to taste something if it's fresh and local, and it goes along with classroom education.
I love your focus also on the equity, diversity equity. With regard to food, how do you incorporate other types of food, other cultural food too? I know that way back when I was in elementary school, I used to have like a little bit of a shift where American food is in school, which is like usually European based, and then at home is Indian food. And it was so easy for me to eat veggies with Indian food with spices. So are you introducing like people to other cultural foods too? Children, yeah.
So I'm going to help answer that question.
Yay. Okay.
As a culinary mentor, what a lot of schools did when we did the cooking up change, we usually picked the country, and so they would present their item for that country that they chose with as close to the general spices and things like that, and that culture that they could do, and then at that point, if that whoever won gets put onto the school program. So they did push for the students to learn about different cultures and how we did foods that way. So that's one way that I know that they've done it.
We've also, right, so Cooking Up Change is a great example, which I didn't talk about in the presentation, but that's a high school culinary competition for Chicago Public School students. And when you look at the menus that come out of that, there's way more spice, there's way more ethnic food focus than there are in the traditional school meal program. And so one thing was that we got CPS to agree to bring those meals into rotation, to menu rotation, and they've proven to be some of the most popular menus. Kids like spicy food and they like to eat culturally responsive food. And so that's the other thing that CPS is doing more of, is doing taste testing and listening to parents and students because if you talk to students about what they want to eat and it shows up on the menu, they're much more likely to eat it. So there's been some success there, but it's a challenge.
Any more questions?
So in regards to the Space to Grow program, I understand how schools are selected. I'm curious about who designs the space and then who builds it, and I guess where the funding comes from, because it seems to me like that might be an area for potential partnership.
So the capital funds for Space to Grow, so the cost of paying the architect and building the school is taken on by the capital partners. So Chicago Public Schools, the Department of Water Management, and MWRD each pay for a third of the cost of the schoolyard. The design of the schoolyard happens through this incredible inclusive design process. So it's a charrette style system. So we have students get together and talk about how they use the schoolyard now and their vision for the schoolyard. Teachers do the same thing, principals do the same thing, and community partners. We do it in a way where we are very sensitive to power dynamics within the school environment. So for example, the teachers aren't sitting with the students when they talk about what they want. The principal is not sitting with the teachers when they talk about what they want. And Healthy Schools Campaign and Open Lands lead that process. So building the schoolyards is through the capital funds, and then we raise money separately to go out into the neighborhood and knock on doors and recruit parents and caregivers to the process. We do a training for teachers that are involved in Space to Grow, both in how to use the schoolyard and lesson plans, but also how to connect the environmental stewardship and food and climate issues that come up in the schoolyards to classroom learning. So we bring the capital partners together, and we raise money for all sort of the soft costs of Space to Grow, which are really integral to the program, because when you have a schoolyard that's designed by the community, the day that it opens, it's being fully utilized, not only during the school day, but after school and on weekends, and it's incredible. And I don't know, it's sort of a first for Chicago Public Schools, because Chicago Public Schools is good at a lot of things, but having an inclusive process is not one of them. And so it's central to the success of the work. And we raise resources from philanthropy, from individual donors. We recently got an earmark through NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric. So we spend a lot of time raising money for the work that we do with Space to Grow. So CPS is in charge of the construction of the schoolyards. They hire architects who then hire landscape architects to do it. And there's a pool of pre-approved architects that can do that.
One more, okay.
All right, this is a pretty simple one, I think, but I'm wondering if chickens in schools are a part of your programs. I have chickens near me and I love them.
Which school are you near?
It's the one in Albany Park, Palmer.
Okay, I cannot take I can only take responsibility for chickens that are not alive in school.
Well, maybe that's the next option.
Are there any questions on the Zoom?
No.
Okay, well, I want to thank you so much for your time today. And we have a wonderful gift for you. I guess. A beautiful Rotary Club cup for your coffee today. And then some cookies that are made by a group organization that I am working with called Al's Cookie Mix, who had a student that is special needs, and he started a cookie company so that his friends and his son had jobs once they aged out of the CPS system.
That's fantastic.
There
Thank you so
go.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now let's introduce some guests. I'm going to do something a little different because I see there are 2 Zoom guests that I don't know. So if they would like to unmute themselves and introduce themselves. Oh, they don't want to? Okay, maybe not. Nope. Okay. Well, we'll wait, see, might be technical difficulties. Do we have any visiting international Rotarians in the room? Sarah's gonna bring you the mic to introduce yourself.
Oh, good afternoon. I'm Robert from Leicester, Rotary Club of Leicester. I joined Rotary through another club, Wigston, which unfortunately closed through lack of membership. Members just got, older and disappeared. And 2 of us went and joined Leicester, which is a pretty old club. Certainly not the oldest in Britain, but pretty old. I took the events that we were running at Wigston to Leicester, but the big question is that we can't get sponsorship for a lot of our fundraising, and the number of people that are committed to it are shrinking. So it's a bit of a battle, really. But we carry on. I think our problems is the same as your problems about getting new members and getting young people interested. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other visiting international Rotarians? Can we get our visiting U.S. Rotarians, Sarah? We can start with Karen.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Karen Swinger. I am visiting from the Oak Park River Forest Rotary Club, and I am also the District Grants Coordinator for District 6450.
Thank you. Yes.
Good afternoon. I'm Robert McIntyre from the Danville, Illinois Rotary Club. I came because my late wife was principal of a magnet school in Danville, Illinois, about a dozen years ago, and worked with an outfit called Alliance for a Healthier Generation, and ran a school healthy food program in her school, won a national award for it, and frankly, they haven't kept it up. But I'm so pleased to hear that that sort of work is being done and being done on a national scale. And that's why I was interested, particularly in today's program. And it's frankly, it's also, it's also nice to get up to the big city every now and then.
Our other visiting Rotarians in the back. Karen.
Good afternoon, Travis Richardson from the Maywood Proviso Rotary Club. I'm here with two of my fellow members.
And I'm Karen Yarbrough. I'm the past president of the Maywood Proviso Club, and I'm going to pass the mic to Johnny. But to your point on membership, last year I think we added 18 new members. It was a lot of work because people have divergent interests, and you try to, well, at least I did. I tried to identify people and their interests, and because everybody wants to do something to help others. Would you agree? Most people want to help somebody else, and just trying to focus our attention in those areas, and we were successful with that. On to Johnny Diggs.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. It's always good to be here at the Union League with Rotary One, President Williams and Dr. Rowbottom and Dr. Neitha and so many other familiar faces I've seen before. It's just great to be here. It's always a delicious meal and a very scrumptious speaker. So, and just glad to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So with that, we have announcements. On the form for all my members, there's a wonderful member spotlight form. If you all could please fill it out for us so that we can spotlight you in the gyrator and at a meeting, we would truly appreciate that for that. And then our upcoming opportunities, we have the Peace Day on September 18th, where we have some people volunteering. So please volunteer or come out. It's going to be in Daly Plaza. The Illuminati's fundraiser on October 3rd. Please come out. You can come out to mine on 64th and Cicero, Sarah's, on 805 South State, and Laura on 6649 North Lincoln. I think Laura has way enough, so I think you all should spread out to me and Sarah's locations, just saying. If you couldn't tell, it's a little bit of a competition. And then we have Come Home Zone on October 18th through the 22nd. Please, it's open to all members, and it's a great way to learn more about Rotary and what Rotary has to offer, and be a part of meeting all the people in our zone. Our zone goes all the way down to Texas, and I think over to New York or something. I don't know how they drew that zone, but that's how they drew it. And then Sarah has something she would like to come up and tell us about.
Okay, so I have two announcements. We have our first CPS grant volunteer opportunity with this new batch of winners. For those in the room who are unaware of our program, we have an annual CPS grant program that runs in the spring, where a subcommittee of our Community Service Committee reviews and awards teachers for proposals that they submit to us. And so part of that proposal, they have a requirement to provide Rotarians with a volunteer opportunity. And so we have our first one coming up. It is on September 29th from 3 to 4 p.m. And during this time, Rotarians can assist with organizing and decorating a sensory room with the new materials purchased from the grant. The school is located at 3000 South Lawndale. Everything I just said will be in the gyrator. So in case you weren't taking notes, as my students never do either, it will be in the gyrator for you to register for that. I'd also like to announce that the Community Service Committee is pleased to announce the inaugural scholarship for students attending a 2- or 4-year post-secondary institution within the city of Chicago. This is a service-based award of $1,000, with priority given to students who have done service with any Rotary Club worldwide. More information and the link to apply are in the gyrator. This is something that we need spread. The information needs to get out there. So please, once you see that information, please feel free to share it so we can get some good applicants. The application is due on November 30th. And again, I just want to highlight the Lou Malnati's thing. This is I can say fundraiser, right? It is a fundraiser for our club. There are 3 locations. Actually, currently, Laura has the most registrants for our foundation. Sorry, it's a fundraiser for our foundation. So we spread it out. So there's Illuminati's on the north side, and then that's Laura, and in the center, that's me, and on the south side is Alita. And so that is replacing our first Tuesday evening meeting, like we have the first of each Tuesday. You know what I mean? Anyway, it's at 5:30. You can come out and eat with us. There is a registration link in the gyrator. And so if you choose one of those, you can click that link to register. If you cannot eat with us, that's fine. You can still order from any of those 3 restaurants on that day, but you have to put in the Rotary Club of Chicago in order for us to get credit. So more information on that is located in the gyrator.
And so the great thing about that fundraiser, she was saying, at the end of the day, Illuminati's is going to cut a check to our foundation for a portion of all the pizzas that we bought that day. So, like she said, please come out to State or Cicero. No, just kidding. Any place that you go, we really appreciate you to come out and support us. Our committee meetings are in the gyrator, but the membership meeting is on September 12th, which is today at 5:30. An International Service Committee meeting is tomorrow. PR and marketing is on the 21st. Our DEI committee is on the 26th, and our community service committee is on October 5th. All of our committees are looking for more members to come in and give us brand new ideas of things that they want to do and participate. Our upcoming programming meetings this next week is our club assembly. That's where you get to hear about all the things that all of our committees are doing. And they give back a report to the club so we can find out what we're doing and all the great things. That evening on September 19th, Dr. Tyrone Bledsoe is speaking at Loyola, and he's a Rotarian visiting, and he wanted to invite us to come out. So if you're able that evening to come out, you can also get that information in the gyrator? Okay, in the gyrator, sorry. I skipped that page, I'm sorry, I was going through. And our third Thursday social on the September 21st is going to be, I'm sorry, I picked it and I can't remember, I totally went blank. Thank you, at the Epiphany Center for the Arts at 5 o'clock. So please come out, come and listen to some great music at a great location, and all that information is also in the gyrator. And with that, I would like to, as I always do, invite somebody up to do the 4-way test, and that's going to be Karen Swinger. Sorry, got to. If everyone could please stand.
The 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. 1, is it the truth? 2, is it fair to all concerned? 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And number 5, will
Will it be fun?
All right. And with that, I adjourn this meeting.